somebody from the hotel is gonna have to turn that off, so. Because they're coming through the
that's
circular
what it is.
speakers.
Okay.
So we've set for somebody already, so.
Thank you.
Or unless maybe I can punch a button back here. No, that's just for the lights.
How are you? Good. Yeah, that's. I couldn't get it on.
It's the hotel speakers, hotel audio.
No, it's not yet.
So this is the room that we had to reset yesterday, and it seems like they've reset it for like mandated control, that we can no longer switch it back to our room right now. No, it's happening. We normally are one that able to control that, but right now in this room, we're not. This is the room that yesterday, late afternoon, we had to get a reset. For. So I'm wondering if you reset it differently. Yes, please. So sorry. It's okay.
And I can start whenever, and I just have some nice music to do. Okay. It's not, I can't push it to last, but it's not right in the beginning, so hopefully we can get it. If not, we'll make it work.
So obviously your audio is fine for here. Do you think you're gonna unmic? Unmute so that the things can start, and if you would stay. Right, I know, but until they get it fixed, and they might be done for any minute, and then you can go about your normal beautiful stuff.
Okay, okay.
I'm not leaving you, I'm staying.
So Sylvia, unmute my, is that, wait, that's me, okay, when I kind of like. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. We're gonna get started in just a couple minutes. We have a little bit of background music right now that they're trying to take care of, so just enjoy the music as we go along. We may have to pause for a minute just to kind of get the video set up when we get to the video part, but we're gonna make it work. And I'm just happy to see you all so early on the last day of the conference. So thank you for joining me this morning. I have the bit.ly up here for the presentation and also a QR code. It is in Sketch as well. For those of you that are online, I will be putting it in the online Sketch shortly, but you can access the presentation with the bit.ly or the QR code. So I'll give everyone a minute because I know we might be still trying to connect to the internet. Anyone having any luck this morning? Okay.
This room is like the black hole of the conference because I came down here yesterday. My phone lost service. I had to restart my phone once I got back to the daylight to like make my phone work. I was like, oh my.
It is kind of like the one part that's, you gotta find it. So makes sense.
And then it can't find your phone and internet's spotty down here. And
Yeah.
I need the same year waiting to catch up on them.
All right, so we are going to try to do some, interactivity, like parts to this. If they're not working in person, we'll just kind of modify as we go, but it should work online, so everyone can stay online and feel like they're part of the group here. Does anyone need any more time getting on the presentation, getting to it? Okay, perfect. So this morning, we're going to be talking about social emotional learning in digital life. And my name is Barbara, and I am from Common Sense Education. How many of you have used Common Sense resources in your classroom? Great. Okay, perfect. My contact information is here. I know at conferences we learn a lot, and sometimes it takes us some time to process. So if you have any questions after the conference, feel free to reach out, and just my information is there. And so as we're getting started talking about social emotional learning and digital life and thinking about our students, I just want to start thinking and reflecting on ourselves to start. And I would love to just know, what does social emotional learning mean to you? So if you could take a minute to answer that question on the Mentimeter. You can either access it with the QR code, or I put the code for the Menti, and then there's also the link at the bottom of the slides if you're there. There's 3 ways to get to it. Just take a minute and let me know what it means to you. Don't mute my mic. But keep my mic on. Okay. Oh, so sorry. Go back. Can you go ahead and speak? Speak? Yes, okay. Is everyone able to get to the Mentimeter? Can you hear me? I'm still unmuted. Do you want me to still be unmuted or?
No.
Turn that off, okay. Can you hear me better now?
You're great.
Okay. Awesome, okay. I'm muted?
And stay muted.
I am muted, yes, okay. All right, we're gonna talk over. See what our responses are. I don't know how to get rid of these. Okay, great. So we're looking at understanding the emotional and mental health of our students, so we're able to support them in a successful manner. Understanding your emotional responses is a part of social emotional learning. Addressing mental well-being and mental health issues and creating safe spaces. Managing your emotions and how you deal with situations. Understanding how to treat ourselves and others for optimal health and good relationships, right? So I'm seeing some things like we're reflecting on ourselves or reflecting on our relationships. A lot of emotions, kind of thinking about our emotions, thinking about strategies and learning how to interact with each other. Solutions, right? Thinking about how our feelings impact our actions and our relationships with others. So great. Okay, so for Common Sense, we base our social emotional content off of the CASEL definition for social emotional learning. And you're going to see within the resources that I'm sharing with you today that we base them off of the CASEL competencies as well. So a lot of you in your definition were kind of saying things that were within this CASEL definition. And then also the 5 competencies, right? Self-awareness, right? So being aware of your emotions, self-management, learning how to manage those and what you're doing, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. How many of you are currently familiar or using CASEL resources for social emotional learning in your class? Anyone? Okay, that's great. So you're going to see these kind of popping up. So just so you're aware of those 5 competencies as we're going through. Okay, so as I said before we get into our students, it's always nice to kind of reflect and just see how we're doing socially and emotionally. And we're going to do a quick activity, and if you're online, if you could participate in the same way, and if you're in person, we're going to just give a thumbs up if something resonates with you or if you identify with something. So here we go. So at the beginning of the school year, I don't know if anyone saw this Twitter thread, and it was asking if you could describe yourself as a current state of being using a school supply, which would you choose? And I was just really feeling this, and I felt like, you know, there were a lot of school supplies that I also identified with as I was going through this. And as we're approaching the break and we're kind of feeling, right, maybe exhausted, just after this first part of the year, I thought this would just be a good activity just to kind of check in with each other. So if you're feeling like you're a jammed full punch, give a thumbs up. If anyone's feeling that way, if they can identify with that school supply. Okay. And now I know all of us have seen this specific glue stick. And is anyone feeling like they are this specific glue stick at this current moment? Granted, we are in a conference and we've been having a really good time this week, so maybe we put that glue stick away for now, but we're still kind of feeling it. Okay. Is anyone feeling that they are the multicolored glitter that most kids love, but it's a little too much for most adults? And that you make everything more bright and fun, but I get everywhere and I'm impossible to get back in the bottle once the cap's removed. Anyone glitter? I love it. Awesome. Okay. All right, this one, which I feel like in this group, there's a lot of us here, right? This is me. Every color is a hat, and sometimes I feel like all 4 are being pressed down at the same time as I did as kids, right? So true. And then this one, which I feel like this one really resonated with me, and these pencils are how my year is going, and yes. Okay. So as we're thinking about just kind of what we're going through, and right, as we're talking about social emotional learning, it's also important to recognize, right, what emotions and what things we're bringing to the table and what we're bringing into our classes. And now we're going to kind of shift a little bit and start thinking about our students. And I want you to reflect for a moment and think about what social emotional challenges are you having with technology? So, sorry. So we're kind of switching over a little bit into the digital life aspect of social emotional learning. So take a moment and then share some of those challenges on the Mentimeter. And if you want to share out loud as well, please feel free to. You don't have to just share on the Mentimeter, but if anyone is willing or wants to share some challenges that you're seeing with social emotional learning around technology. It's always interesting doing this with different groups and seeing what comes up. Right, and we can see a lot of emotion words, right, in our responses, right? We're frustration, we've got frustration, discontent, right? We're feeling isolated, overexposure, maybe oversharing, bullying. Frustration's in the center. Can anyone elaborate a little bit on frustration? Like what?
So my kids, they get very frustrated with the technology. If they feel like they aren't able to understand it, it makes them feel insecure, and they see their peers understanding it. So they get very frustrated, and they'll like slam the device down or like yell at me or outlash onto like their peers.
Anyone else feeling that or seeing that in their
Yeah,
class?
mine are frustrated, but mostly because I have a group of kids who 50% of them were distance learning all year last year, and they're just sort of over it. It's like, I don't want to get on my device. I want to for whatever I want to do, but for what I want, I'm tired of people telling me what to do on my computer. So,
Yeah.
Yes, I think the students are frustrated too because of the way the content is being delivered. It's not as engaging as it used to be, and we've fallen back into maybe a Google Slides for presenting content. That's not the best way. We're now absorbing instead of creating content.
Especially with all my English language learners, they're having to learn technology and a new language, and technology is a language in itself. And it's just super frustrating for them because it's too much to learn at one time.
Yes.
I see a lot of things about like the content that they're accessing on there, and we've had a lot of children not understanding what Chromebooks are for, and like understanding like how we manage them and that we see it all.
Anyone else want to share?
Yes.
We have some students at my school that are visually impaired and they need the bigger screens. And I was doing a presentation on how to do Google Slides. I couldn't figure out how to use what was on his screen. It was so magnified. So the frustration for students with special needs being able to use it, you know, he's in a regular classroom, so him being able to access it, I think, is a frustration too for students.
Yes.
And I think,
Oh, sorry.
I agree. We have not used technology to enhance instruction upon our return.
And so students are seeing that and kind of getting frustrated from that transition.
we in preschool and we're using iPads. And so you have those students that have iPads at home And now they have iPads in school and they don't understand that at school, I use it in a different way. And they're very frustrated with having to make that shift and that new mindset of, this is an iPad and we're going to use it for learning. And it's not just me on YouTube every day.
That transition is tough from home to school. Any other thoughts on what you're seeing up here? Or does anyone want to add any other context to what you're experiencing?
I think somebody had up there the TikTok accounts in 5th and younger, and just the social media accounts in elementary school.
Starting at a younger age than ever before.
Yeah, because I talk about, I use the common sense about social media and digital footprints and all that. And I start in 3rd grade, oh, I have a Facebook, I have this, and I'm like, and all I say is, well, my kids are 12 and they don't have it because the site says you have to be 13, but I don't know, I see that as a big issue, and then them copying what they see on the TikTok. What was it with the bathroom destruction there for a while, so.
Yeah, so that like responsible decision making when they're
I
using
think I've
social
seen
media.
like the peer pressure piece really heightened. We have unfortunately had a number of students commit suicide because of bullying. And I think that this is more than ever a very prominent issue that we're trying to tackle within our division. I know across the state, across the nation.
Anyone else? All right, so say we're all experiencing a lot of challenges, and that's why we're here this morning. And I probably don't need to tell you why SEL and digital life, but as we were thinking about why social emotional learning and digital life, during the pandemic, we saw that there were a lot of benefits, right, to students on technology. They were connecting with others. They felt more connected to friends and family. They were able to access current events, and they were also learning from technology. But we also saw that some of the challenges that we saw previously became a little more acute. And, for example, students reported that they were seeing hate speech online more often than 2 years prior. So these are just some of the challenges, and just as we were thinking and everything that you just shared, right, as you're thinking about how students are transitioning back after being home and remote, kind of just thinking about why do we need social emotional learning in a digital context and thinking about that. So with SEL and digital life, we're thinking about those skills and dispositions from the digital citizenship curriculum, but we're also thinking about how that relates to regulating your emotions and also those transitions, using devices to leverage social media for healthy relationships, right? So kind of building that. And there is a huge connection for SEL and digital citizenship. So if you're teaching the digital citizenship curriculum, you may have already seen some of those connections. And we just, with this new content, are really just making it a little more explicit of the connections. So if you're looking at the 5 CASEL competencies up top for social emotional learning, you can see how they relate to different digital citizenship topics. So if you're looking at like self-awareness, understanding online cues, right, is a part of that. Identifying red flag feelings, right, when you're using technology, and then also reflecting on how social media impacts your personal identity. And if you're looking at self-management, and a lot of you had listed that in your definition, you can see how those relate to digital citizenship as well. And then here's something that we're all facing right now, that responsible decision-making. So kind of showing that connection from SEL and digital citizenship. Right, so using technology responsibly to promote personal, family, and community well-being, but also evaluating those positive and negative effects of being online. And then you can see the relationship skills and then social awareness. And then we have broken it down by grade band. So K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and then 9 to 12. You can see how these kind of play out, and I'll show you today. And for those of you that aren't familiar with our curriculum, we have a free full K-12 curriculum that has these 6 topic areas. So these social emotional learning lessons are quick activities, and they're also in conjunction with the curriculum end times. So I'm just going to show you where you might have seen them. So if you're on the site and you are, and it's not loading. Here we go. So you'll see like these little video places. So that's where you're gonna have a quick activity, and many of them are social emotional quick activities, and you'll see them at the beginning of the lesson. So you may have, has anyone seen any of these lessons taught? Oh, awesome. Okay, great. So that's one place that they're at. And then we also have a social emotional learning and digital life resource center, and that's where all of them live. So there's 20 Castle Line activities, and they take about 15 minutes. Granted, you may want to spend more time depending on what you're teaching or what the conversations lead to. And then there's also family conversation starters specific to social emotional learning, and then professional development resources to bring this into your schools. And how many of you have visited this resource center? Anyone seen it? Great. So if you scroll down, you'll see the different grade bands. If you click on any of the grade bands, it will take you to all of the lessons for each of those by topic area, by CASEL competency. Okay, so within each SEL activity, there's a teacher lesson plan, there's a student handout, and then a lot of times it's associated with the video, and some of these videos you've seen before, but they're realigned to this new content. And then sometimes you're going to see a digital dilemma. So I'm going to show you some different examples by grade levels today, and we're going to interact with a little bit of the content too. And then you're going to see the learning objectives. You'll see a CASEL focus, as I shared before. So one of those CASEL competencies, each lesson is aligned to one of the competencies. And then you'll see learning objectives that are aligned to social emotional learning. Okay. So let's see how this plays out in different grade levels. So in elementary school, right, some students are starting to get devices, and they are thinking about, how technology might make them feel, right? Also learning to transition. We were just talking about that transition from school to home and vice versa, but also just transitioning off, right? A lot of us are having that, even as adults. I think we can relate to our younger students, this getting off our device and having that transition off our device. And then understanding those responsibilities from having a device, and then finally just practicing being kind. And so starting those things within the lessons. And so one of our SEL activities is how can you be an online superhero? And once again, it has that 15-minute quick activity. And you can see the 3 learning objectives, kind of focusing on that CASEL focus, responsible decision-making. So how many of you have seen this video? Has anyone seen this video? Okay, so if you've seen this video, just kind of you'll have a little more background knowledge. We're gonna watch a little video, and as you're watching, I want you to think about how does this align to responsible decision-making, and specifically think about some of the possible digital mistakes that Guts is making, and how can he learn from those mistakes. So just take a little time to reflect as we watch. We're gonna see if this works.
Who in the world are you? I'm super digital.
I'm not sure.
Yesterday, they took it out and played it on actual YouTube.
Yeah, let me try that. No. We'll make it work if it doesn't work.
It's a bird. It's a plane. Wait,
Come on.
who in the world are you?
Or-
I'm super digital citizen. Ta-da! Super digital citizen? Are you from another planet? Nope. Can you fly? Apparently not. And why do we need you, Mr. Superhero? Think about it. Every day, kids
I'm gonna
post,
reenact it for
share,
everyone right now.
play, create, explore, and learn all online. The digital world can be a sinister place. So I make sure that kids are safe.
We're gonna skip this activity.
It's a bird. It's a plane.
We may come back
Wait,
to it.
who in the world are you?
So within this
Super
digital citizen
citizen.
activity, after they watch the video and
Ta-da! Super digital
after they
citizen?
think about,
Are you from another
you know,
planet?
what
Nope.
digital
Can you
mistakes that's
fly?
maybe making and
Apparently
what we
not.
can do.
And why do we need you,
to,
Mr.
you know, kind of think
Superhero?
about those mistakes and
Think
do
about
differently in the future.
Every day,
Then they
kids
go and
post,
they
share,
do
play,
an
create,
activity,
explore,
right?
and learn
And the
all
activity
online.
is in the form of a
The
worksheet,
digital
and you know,
world
worksheets
can
aren't
be a
always that
sinister
great,
place.
but there's different
So I
ways that
make
you
sure
can
that
implement this
kids are
activity. You
safe,
have
responsible,
students
and
interact on a
respectful.
Flipgrid
Huh,
and talk
I guess
about
we
those
do need
digital
superheroes like
mistakes
you.
and kind of respond
Yep,
to each other that
I'm
way.
all about
You also
helping
have
us
kid
kids
talk,
make good choices.
and then you could do
That
something
sounds
like
like
a Menti
one
and a
tough
Padlet,
day job.
like we've been doing here about thinking about how Guts could learn from his mistakes and kind of thinking about some different ways. Okay. Then as we're looking at middle school, right? Middle school is the sweet spot for digital citizenship. I feel like a lot of times this is where they are joining social media and becoming more active in social media, and they're really thinking about their relationships with their friends, right? This is that transition. And so they are thinking about their emotions and their experience, and if you talk to different kids, depending on who they are going to tell you different emotions around social media. They're also learning how to manage their use of technology and then also develop strategies for dealing with digital drama. So you're starting to see how many of you teach girls? How many of you are
Common
seeing
sense
digital
says we
drama?
can all be superheroes each and every day.
In fifth grade, yeah.
What are your
I
superpowers?
taught ninth grade and I saw it for sure in ninth grade. But anyone want to share any of the challenges you're seeing with that digital drama?
That are happening at home, like we have like TikTok or, you know, Snapchat and stuff that's happening, and then they're bringing it to school and like asking us to deal with it. And it's like, what is that boundary line of, you know, things that are happening at school versus things that are happening at home but being brought to school?
Yeah, and just like trying to figure out what happened, you know, in
How
between.
can we do anything about it?
Right.
I'm kind of jumping onto that, just a bit more of a specific example. You know, there's Fortnite, which the kids still play. And we had two students playing outside of school hours, and they were being unkind to each other. And someone in the group felt really uncomfortable. So like, and they're bringing that in into school and then talking to us. And you know, there's only so much we can do with stuff like that outside of school on a different platform that says nothing to do with school related things, and having that conversation with them.
I mean, things will happen outside of school and stuff like that on social media, and then they come in and they decide that it's the moment that they're gonna deal with their beef and fight it out. Like, then it just turns into like massive brawls in our school.
Anyone else having similar?
Middle schoolers are just so impulsive, right? They don't think about the consequences of their actions and they just do it.
Yeah,
Like they're still developing.
When it becomes the most important thing to them, it's the only thing that they can think about. They can't say, well, it's whatever, you know, they can't think of that.
Yeah. We had a very big fight the other day and a lot of kids filmed it and they were sharing the videos.
Yep.
And our school had to tell them that they could get in trouble for inciting a riot and actually get legal charges because it was becoming such a big thing. And all the kids were like in absolute shock that them sharing this would actually have consequences.
And then they don't realize they're getting to the age that they can actually start getting tried as adults.
Yeah.
I'm just also thinking about like, what is that like point of reflection as you're deciding whether to film a video or not, right? And having that conversation and really thinking about the people that are involved, that as you're, you know, filming a fight, right? What that means to those kids that are involved.
Adults do the same thing. So I think it's hard for kids, but they see adults doing it and they have parents who are doing it. So I don't think it's a kid thing. I think it's a human.
Yeah.
Many times that you look at New York City where a girl was getting assaulted, people were standing there and some people filmed it. And all those people are getting charged for not helping. So it's a humane thing no longer for kids.
Yeah, and it depends also on what you're doing with that video, right? If you're just standing there taking the video, but not doing anything about it, especially in a situation like that, so.
Yeah, they want likes and followers and to go viral more than just about anything. The consequences don't play into it because they want to be the next thing that everybody's talking about and watching online.
Yeah. Okay, so what can we do about it? So one of the middle school activities is dealing with digital drama, right? And kind of thinking about those different strategies and why digital drama may happen, what can we do about it? And just using different scenarios to take different perspectives. So really thinking about different people's perspectives in the scenario. So like in a situation, if you're, streaming a fight, what is those different perspectives? Just kind of having them think about how they can de-escalate digital drama. So there is a video, which I don't think we can play, that has teens' perspectives talking about what they're experiencing on social media, right? How they think it's different because of technology, right? And those special different situations that they encounter because of technology. And then also, what can we do about it? What's working, what's not working for us? And they share some great strategies for dealing with digital drama. And I think that's the one thing is like, we're looking at our kids and we're saying that like, they have all of these challenges, right? But they also have a lot of solutions. So like giving them the opportunity to talk about these solutions and really think and share ideas and strategies and empathize with each other, I think is really what we're aiming for here. So having this start off as a conversation of other teens and then having them talk about some solutions within the group is really important.
People fight over text all the time.
We can't hear it, so we're gonna skip this part. But has anyone seen any of their students share some strategies for handling digital drama? Anyone share anything?
I'm not dealing with it. Well, I don't have any, but my students will always tell me like ways that they deal with drama in like reality. So like they'll walk away, they'll get an adult, they'll do that. So they know how to handle it in, when they're talking to someone, but online is still something that they're struggling with.
Great.
I think that like this idea of dealing with it is just completely foreign to them. Like whenever you introduce like different ways that the people handling this, they're like, what do you mean there's other ways to handle it? So these are some skills that we should really get out there.
Great. I think at the younger edge, because I've had fifth and eighth and like fifth graders were more likely to go to an adult that they trusted and kind of talk about it. And then eighth graders were more likely to tell you, yeah, I should put my phone down, but like they don't want to, but they know it at least. They just that acting upon it.
Right. So like stopping and reflecting before responding, thinking about what you're typing, like if you're typing in all caps, right? And there's lots of different things that if you type something, it's, decoded differently depending on the relationship, right? So just kind of thinking about that. Setting up a time to talk in person, right? Instead of continuing that conversation online, if like there's some kind of misunderstanding there, but just kind of thinking about those different things. Okay, so within this lesson, there is a scenario. And then within the scenario, students will then take a viewpoint of someone else and think about why that person may have acted that way and what is one thing that person could have done differently in that particular scenario. Has anyone seen this before? Okay. So let's look at the scenario and then we'll do a little activity with it. So Felicia and Jen are friends from school and they both auditioned for the lead role in the school play. The next day, Mr. Adler, the drama teacher, posts the final cast showing Felicia was selected for the role. Felicia posts a photo of the list on social media with the caption, guess who made the lead role? Me, right? Other students at our school see her post and make comments. The comments continue to come in, and then they're starting to respond with different hashtags like Team Jen and Team Felicia. Later in response, to Jaden's comments, Felicia posts an embarrassing picture of Jaden and calls him out for failing Mr. Adler's class. So here's an example of something that happened at school, right? It's continuing online and then is probably coming back into school. And so we are seeing this play out digitally. Has anyone seen an experience like this happen? Not exactly in terms of this exact story, but something like this happening within their classes. Okay, so in the lesson, we have students taking on a different viewpoint. And you can see you can either choose, in this particular case, Jaden or Felicia, and then thinking about those three things, right? So really kind of focusing on that social awareness piece as we're perspective taking. And so one modification that you can do with this activity is I created a Jamboard, and I actually had just all of the different people that were involved in this scenario around the scenario. And then I just have students take a particular perspective. So let's say I want to think about how Felicia, right, responded to this. And I can either think about why I might have acted this way, or what is one thing I could have done differently. And so you can just type your response within the sticky and kind of think about that. But if we're looking at this scenario, what is something that Felicia or Mr. Adler or Allie or Jaden, why do you think they acted that way in that scenario? I'll put this scenario back up in case. So if we're looking at, like, let's look at Felicia. Why do you think Felicia posted, guess who made the lead role? Me.
She wanted to share her excitement.
Yeah, she was excited, baby.
Proud of herself.
She was proud of herself. What else? Any other?
I could see a middle schooler taking it like that. She's showing off almost. I know it's not her, it doesn't seem to be her intention, but like someone could be like, oh man, she's just bragging.
Yeah.
She did use all caps at the end.
Yeah. And that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, we're thinking about like how someone else may have read it, but she might have just been really excited, right? She was excited and she posted it. Why do you think, let's see, why might have Jaden responded that way?
Jealousy.
Possibly jealousy, right?
Maybe loyalty to Jen, maybe they're friends.
Maybe loyalty to Jen. So there's a friendship kind of piece that maybe you're not understanding if you're kind of watching this play out online.
They're hurt and they're lashing out.
Right? They might be hurt.
Like maybe they have just like a sense of like fairness, like, oh, she's always getting these roles because I read, oh, give somebody else a chance. And
yeah, right. Yeah, so that came later, but maybe he was already on to the fact that give that later, or that she's always getting that same roles. Anything else?
Maybe Jaden and Felicia just don't get along. I mean, they may have background that they're just not friends at all.
Yeah, so we don't know. We don't really know that background.
maybe they're in the same class and that's why they said, what a teacher's pet. Maybe they feel like their teacher favorites her.
Yeah, so maybe there's some other dynamics going on beyond this particular situation. And then if you're looking at Allie adds a hashtag. What does that do to this situation? It's possibly escalating.
It starts forming a real divide. Pick a side. You have to be one or the other.
Right, so now you can see that digital drama kind of playing out here. And we can't see the rest of what's happening here, but what's something that someone could have done differently in this scenario?
Be a Brad.
No, I'm just kidding. Be a Brad. There you go.
Yeah, so Brad is like, congrats, cool, right? He's excited.
I mean,
for
in
Felicia.
Felicia's initial, she could have said, I'm so excited to get to play the lead role, congratulations to everyone who auditioned, it was great or something. I mean, try to compliment others instead of just talk about yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Jen is watching this happen, but if Jen wanted to, like, when Jaden first said that, Jen could be something like it was, it was a fair audition, something like that. Trying to help curb that, since she's the other player, she's not even involved in this right now.
Yeah, so Jen either may have not seen this, we don't know, right? Jen may be
Or
doing something
she's
else
sitting
not
back
on
and
social
watching.
media, right? Or she could be seeing all this going like, how am I supposed to react, right? And just thinking about this from Jen's perspective, maybe she understands that Felicia got the part, but now she's seeing this all play out online and there's people on Team Jen. She's like, I don't need people on Team Jen, right?
I don't
Um,
want this drama.
Jaden, if Jaden had a problem with the way Felicia phrased it, he also could like privately message her, or talk to her in person, been like, hey, like, this really hurt my friend Jen's feelings, maybe, edit it real quick just to be a little more inclusive of it, congratulating everybody.
Yeah, yeah, so he's standing up for Jen, but maybe it could have been done slightly different to support everyone.
Like kind of just like piggybacking on what they said, like reevaluating the assumption I'm making based on this text, like actually just reaching out like, hey, I read this and this is what I took from it. Maybe Felicia's like, no, really, I was just like, oh, I did that message too quick. I was just so excited, but it came out wrong, So having that dialogue instead of just jumping to that conclusion of, well, Felicia's just being a.
Can you check your videos? They say they're still hearing them online.
Okay.
People fight,
Yeah, is it better now? Okay, sorry.
people fight over time.
All right, great. Any other thoughts on that scenario? And then as we get into high school, we are thinking about how to identify a technology makes us feel, or use it in a way that makes us feel healthy, how to act responsible when with our digital footprints, and then also how to respond to social issues like the presence of online hate speech. So these things are starting to come to younger grades as well, but these are things that our high school students are definitely grappling with. And so as you're getting into the high school content, you're going to see, some deeper looks into some of this information. So here's an example of friendships and boundaries. So we took that digital drama, right? We just saw digital drama play out in a middle school lesson, and now we're looking at friendships and boundaries. And they're thinking about how can I set healthy boundaries between my friends and technology. And so in this lesson, and I think this lesson we all can relate to, let me just move the Mentimeter a little bit. And I want you to rate the level of agreement, how students kind of thinking about this. I often feel overwhelmed by online communications, and I added colleagues for us here, whether they be from friends, family, or colleagues. And then I feel pressured to respond immediately when someone texts or messages me. Let's see. Give everyone a little more time to respond. All right, so you can see the breakdown. If you're still responding, please still respond. So we're skewing towards more strongly agree that we feel overwhelmed, right? And why do we feel overwhelmed? What's happening?
Overload, just so much coming at us through our devices, email, text messages, TikToks, Twitters, tweets, notifications.
Right? Yeah.
Not just the person in front of you anymore.
How many of you are communicating on like 10 different platforms, right? And imagine how many your students are as well, kind of thinking about just managing that, and then how that kind of plays in with digital drama. I feel pressured to respond immediately when someone texts or messages me. How many of you like do a jump, like a little jump when you hear your buzz or the noise, or someone else's buzz or noise on their phone, right? It's interesting. I've done this a few times, and I always, when I see someone that like, well, I see a few here strongly disagree, I need to know all of your tips, which I'm asking you on the next slide. So if you are not being overwhelmed, share your knowledge, please. What is a strategy that you can use to build healthy relationships online? Which could be creating those barriers. Does anyone have that strategy for why you're not overwhelmed?
I am overwhelmed, but this summer I removed all like my school email and stuff off of my phone. So I didn't feel like I was getting bombarded with things that I did not need to deal with in that moment.
Nice. How many of you do not answer school emails after hours?
See, on the other end, I feel like if I don't at least know what's coming, the stress of not knowing forces me to at least look, but I won't always respond. I just need to know what I'm getting myself into.
Okay.
I
So
check
I'm
it
with her.
before I
Like
go.
I have to read it. I may not respond or reply, but at least I know I can tackle it in the morning. And I mean, I've even had teachers that they know me. My teachers know me. Don't reply to me tonight. I'm just sending you this email so I don't forget, but don't reply right now because last year, all I did was just respond to emails.
That's why I'm during the school year. That's why I got the ribbon that says I read your email. So I always read your email.
That's cute. Anyone else? Any other strategies? How do you not feel overwhelmed? Or if you are, like, what is something that's working?
Schedule sending emails is working a little bit better for me too. Like I know, because at night I have a child, so you know, your hours are varied. So I'll end up schedule sending something just so I don't send it at 11 o'clock at night. And that helps. It also helps them to know I'm not working so late.
Yeah. I see hide people on social media, silence your phone at night. I at one time was answering emails in the middle of the night, like, and I was like, how is this happening? What is going on? Like, and I realized that I needed to silence my phone, turn it off. I also noticed I was constantly checking it. Like I looked at my feed and said like I had checked my phone 155 times on average each day. That's a problem, right? So you're constantly like distracted. So great. Your work hours might not be same as mine. Please do not feel pressured to respond outside your working hours. I like that. So setting that and modeling that, and also modeling it for our students too. Like me answering emails, like at night was not a good way to show my students, right, that boundary. And I should have waited into the morning, right, to respond. Reduce social media time, off hours, set out blackout periods, right? Good. Limit the times. Because if you're like working on something and then you're responding to email and working on something, we know that can create pressure and you're not getting things done. Okay, great. Any other great strategies anyone has for setting those boundaries?
Yeah, I just literally talk to people about setting my boundaries. So like my students, when I left for this conference, I turned to all of them. I was like, if you message me, I'm going to leave you on red because you have a person in the room and they can answer your questions. And I already went through everything you're going to go over. And so like just literally telling them that this is my boundary. If you pass it, I am not letting you pass it.
Yeah. So like having that conversation as well, face to face, they can see like that it's important that you have that boundary.
I haven't gotten a single message from a student all year because I told them that.
I heard someone's phone ringing too, and I was like, is that my phone?
I had to literally put something on my calendar. Like if it's an event in my calendar, I have to do it, right? So lunch, quiet time, 10-minute break. Like I had to put it there to give myself permission to like, I'm gonna step away from my computer right now. Like it's not computer or email time. And then sometimes I would put check your email. So then maybe I could give myself time to go through it as well. So, because it does pile up and then that pressure kind of builds to respond.
Yeah, or having like those shortened meetings, like instead of an hour meeting, it's 50 minutes and you have that 10-minute break always naturally built in.
I mean, I guess as a librarian, I'm somewhat different. I don't have quite as much grading to do, but especially since the pandemic started, I've tried really hard to leave school at school. And when I leave, home is home. And I try not to let them combine because I have a sophomore in college and a 7th grader, and time is precious with that younger one. And that's just kind of, I try really hard. I'll check my email Sunday night before I go back to work if there's something, but I just try really hard to keep work at work and home at home as much as I can. And I think that helps.
Yeah, tell us all your secrets, how you do it. Okay, so as we're kind of thinking about the skills and dispositions progressions, we just went through like elementary, middle, and high school and gave you a little snippet of each of those. But here you can see all of the skills and all of the objectives for each grade band. And then on this chart, it also has all of the lessons linked or the quick activities. So if you click on this chart, it will take you to each CASEL competency. Each lesson is linked, and then you can see what students are learning in K-2 all the way up to high school. So like if you're a high school teacher, you can see what students would be learning previously or just how they build the other way as you're looking at each of the competencies. So this is a great chart to kind of bookmark, and then you have access to all the lessons as well right there. Okay. And then the final thing I wanted to leave you with is we have these social emotional learning activities plan, and they were a part of Digital Citizenship Week. I don't know if anyone here participated in Digital Citizenship Week, but you can use them at any time. So we have an elementary school one, a middle school one, and a high school one. I'm just going to click on middle school to show you an example. And so you'll see it says Digital Week schedule, but this is just a great way to kind of think about teaching all 5 of the quick activities. And it also includes a reflection activity. So for elementary, there's like my digital life diary. And then for middle school and high school, it's my ideal digital life, and where they're kind of reflecting on their current, what they're doing currently for each of the CASEL competencies, and then what they want to do in the future, right? So like they're setting themselves some goals for themselves. And so this is an extra resource that's not with the SEL activities that you could use. And then for each grade band, there are some ways that you can tech it up and add some additional context to it. So after they complete, right, their weekly lessons for their ideal digital life, they can then do one of these activities, kind of take it a step further. And then there's some tools or suggestions of how to kind of create those. So you can write a letter to your future self and use Flipgrid. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Satori, but it's a great resource to create like mood boards or vision boards. And it's moving a little slow, but if you go to that website, and continue, you can see like just, you can create and invite students, but you can also just like create your mood boards and storylines and kind of show your experiences here. So it's a really cool tool to kind of see their progression in their SEL experience. And then Book Creator is a great way to create books, or then you can also use Sway. And then for middle and high school, we also have this Anchor, which is a podcasting tool. So having them interview a friend and kind of think about, talking about their digital lives and experiences with someone else as well. And I'll just show you the elementary school one that is different. So you can see Book Creators in there. We also suggest Seesaw as a place to kind of like draw pictures or comic strips and share with families. And then I don't know for my elementary educators here, if you've seen these digital citizenship books that have been created by book creator.
So much.
But there's 3 books that are available for free as well, as another resource that students can, so I'll just show you, it's really cute. I love this one with heart, that you can read, and then there's interactive parts throughout the book as well that are available. So I just want to make sure my elementary educators, you were familiar with these resources that are available. And there's like little
Now,
listening parts.
think about the
and
risks of Heart's online
they
friendships
can
with
do
India Lotus and
with
CJ
their
Cool.
families or in
A risk is something negative or dangerous that could come from a situation. Hart has never met CJ Cool face to face, so Hart does not know who CJ Cool really
one last
is.
thing I want to show you.
CJ
is we
Cool could
have
trick
these,
Hart
social emotional
or use her
learning in
private
film
information and back.
lesson plans.
Can you think of some risks?
And
Add them in the
that is
boxes
a
using the
huge
plus
resource.
button.
So if you scroll down here, there's 3 movies. So for or for elementary, there's Inside Out. For middle school, there's Whale Rider, and then for high school, there's Minari. So if you click on any of these, it's going to take you to a lesson plan for using video clips, and it has social emotional learning discussion questions for students. So for each clip, and so it's only like a short clip that you don't have to use the whole movie, obviously, you can then have some ideas for incorporating that social emotional learning with that clip. So these are really great resources to kind of incorporate within this content. Any questions on anything that I've shared today? All right, well, I want to thank you all so much for being flexible with the technology and just kind of rolling with it. And it was great to see everyone, and please reach out with any questions.